Hi friends, welcome back to Anita Crochets. My name is Anita. So today we are going to be learning how to make this dress. Now this was a custom order by a long-time client who was leaving Uganda to go to Sweden for studies, and that's how she looked like when she wore it. So this is how the back of the dress looks like, and I just had to work a few straps at the back just to give it a good fit and cinch the waist since it's a dress that is worked straight all the way through. This is how the front came out, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this. It's very simple, and we are working with a very simple stitch pattern, which is the granny stripe stitch pattern. So let's get into what we need. Please don't mind the blisters on my hands. I got burned, but yes, let's proceed through the tutorial. Now I'm going to be working with light fingering yarn. This is the yarn I would recommend you all for this project, but you can choose to work with any other yarn that is, in your reach. And then I'm going to be working with a 3mm hook, and you're going to need a tape measure, a pair of scissors, and stitch marker. So let's get started. So I wanted my total dress length to be around 32 inches from top to bottom. So clearly my dress, or the granny stripe part, took about 29 inches of length from top to bottom, and then I had about 2.5 to 3 inches of the horizontal stripes or bands that I worked at the bottom of the dress. Okay, so the stitch pattern that we are going to be working with works in sets of 3 plus 2 chains at the end. Okay, so I personally worked about 152 chain stitches for my foundation. That means 150 were the actual sets of 3 which we need, because you need to work your chains in multiples of 3. Okay, then you add 2 chains at the end, which got me to 152 chains. So you're going to make a slip knot and work the foundation chains that suit the length or height of your dress that you want. Okay, and then add 2 chains at the end, and I'm going to meet you there to show you what to do. So I'm just working this for elaboration purposes or demonstration purposes, because I already have my piece complete. And for me, these are about 90 chains, but yours should be more than this. They should be over 150. Okay, so here we are going to, into the second chain stitch from the hook, we are going to work a single crochet right here. See that? And then we get into the next chain stitch and work a single crochet. Work 1 single crochet in the next, and continue working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way until you come to the end of your row. So what the single crochet row helps us, because we are working with light fingering yarn, it's going to help strengthen our chain stitches before we start working the granny stripe over them. Okay, so work your single crochets all the way until the end, and I'm going to meet you at the end to show you what to do. Once you have come to the end of your row, this is how your work should look like. And at this point, I'm going to start working my granny stripe. So you're going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch. And into this very first stitch right here, we are going to work 2 double crochets all in that very same stitch. So this is our very first cluster, and every cluster is going to comprise of 3 double crochets. Yarn over, you're going to skip 2, and into this next stitch you're going to work 3 double crochets, which means that is a cluster. I am working with this black color, and I feel like you guys are not even in position to see properly, but I'm going to make sure that it's visible to you guys. So we have worked our 3 double crochets, which means this is a cluster, and then we are going to yarn over, skip 2, get into this next stitch, do the very same thing, work 3 double crochets, which means that's a cluster. And now we have 3 clusters. See that? And this is what we are going to repeat all through. So you yarn over and skip 2 and work 3 double crochets all into that very same stitch, which is the next stitch after the 2 skipped stitches. And you're going to repeat this all the way until the end of the row, and that's where I'm going to meet you and then show you what to do. Okay, so here we are at the end of our row. This is what our work looks like. Now to start the next row, we are going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch, then turn our work, and we are going to skip 1, get into this next stitch. Now when I'm working my granny stripes, I like to work into the gap, not into the top of the stitch. Okay, so into this gap in between these 2 double crochets is where I'm going to insert my hook and work a double crochet, just like that. And then I'm going to yarn over and work 2 more double crochets into that very same gap. So that means we have worked a cluster, because our every cluster comprises of 3 double crochets. Then we are going to yarn over and skip 2, get into the gap in between the next 2 double crochets, the gap not into the top of the double crochet stitch. Okay, so in there we work our 3 double crochets, which is a cluster. And this is what we are going to repeat all the way through. You skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, although I like to work into the gap like I showed you guys. So yes, keep repeating this. Skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, okay, or a cluster into the next stitch, and you're just going to continue working your clusters all the way until you have 3 stitches to come to the end of your row right there. That's where I'm going to meet you and then show you what to do. So here we are. I only have 1 cluster left to end my row. So what we are going to do to end our row, we are going to yarn over and skip these last 2 stitches, then get into the 3rd chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the previous row. In here we work 1 double crochet. So that's how we end our row. Now we are going to be repeating these 2 steps, okay? Just to show you how to start the next row, you will chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch, and then turn your work. And into this very first stitch, although I like to work into the gap here, we are going to work 2 double crochets, which makes it a total of 3 stitches, which is our cluster. Yarn over, we skip 2 and get into the next stitch and work 3 double crochets. Now if you look closely, you will see that what I'm trying to do on this row is exactly what I did on this very first row. Okay, so here it's just a matter of doing exactly what we did here, working your clusters all the way until the end of the row right here. Okay, so let me just get to this point, okay, right here, just to show you how to end your row so that you have a neat edge. Okay, so I'm going to show you the trick that you will use to end your row always so that you have a neat edge. So once here, almost to the end of your row, you're going to now yarn over and skip 2, and then into this stitch right here you're going to work 2 double crochets. And now what your last double crochet should be, it should be worked into the 3rd chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the previous row. So this is going to help you have a very neat edge. Okay, I don't know, maybe I worked it wrong. It's going to have you have a clean edge at the end of your work, rather than having to work all the 3 double crochets into this gap. Okay, so that's what I meant. Now here you're going to do exactly what we did for this row, which is the chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch, and then yarn over. Then you will skip the next stitch and get into that next stitch. Although I like to work into the gap, you work 3 double crochets, so that's a cluster. Okay, and if you look closely, that's what we did on the 2nd row of our granny stripe. Then next you're going to skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch or the gap. Okay, and you're going to repeat this, working your clusters, skipping 2 and working your clusters into the next stitch all the way until this point. So here you will skip the last 2 stitches and then work a double crochet into the 3rd chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the row, exactly what we did on this row. Okay, so basically the granny stripe is just a 2-step repeat. Okay, and the 2 steps we did here is exactly what you're going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating until the width of your panel measures up to 3.5 inches. It may not be exactly 3.5 inches, but if it is close to 3.5 inches, that is for size small, and then 4.5 inches for size medium and 5.5 inches for size large. So you're just going to keep measuring your work. But I think if you feel like you need something super snatched, you could just go all the way to 3 inches for size small, 4 inches for size medium, 5 inches for size large. Okay, but yes, that's the approximate width that I would advise for every panel of our work, because remember, the same number of rows that you're going to have for this panel are the same number of rows that we are going to carry through all the other 3 panels that we shall need for just the front piece. Okay, so you can adjust accordingly, but that's what I had for mine. Now this is how my work looks like after working several rows for my panel. Remember, I am working for a size medium, and here I have a total number of 11 rows for the granny stripe, okay, which makes a total number of 12 rows if we add the single crochet row that started this project, okay. But the granny stripe is 11 rows. Now I advise size small to have about 9 rows of the granny stripe, and then size large should have about 13 rows of the granny stripe. Remember, the number of rows that we have on our very first panel are the same number of rows that we are going to carry through, okay, all the other panels that we need for our front piece. And our front piece has 4 panels, okay. So here I have 11 rows, that's for size medium, just for the granny stripe, guys. I'm counting the rows for the granny stripe. So size small, you should have 9 rows of the granny stripe rows, and then size large should go all the way to 13 rows of the granny stripe. But you can increase the number of rows that you're working more or less depending on what suits your fitting. Now we are going to add another color, just like you can see, and once you attach it, you're going to chain 3. I'm just tying the ends so that they are secure. I will later be working this underneath, or even just weave them in, okay. After chaining 3, you're going to turn your work just like this, and like you can see, my very last row for the black color was a cluster. So here that means we are going to skip the next stitch and work our cluster into the stitch after the skipped stitch. So we work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, okay. So you chain 3, turn your work, skip 1, and work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. And then you're going to yarn over and skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, which is a cluster, okay. So basically, we're just going to keep working our clusters in the way that we have been doing. And honestly, there is nothing new on this row that you guys have not done. I just needed to show you guys which point it is that you need to now start changing the color of your project, okay? So you're going to work your row as you have been doing all the way until the top of the end of your row. And then you're just going to repeat what you have been doing previously, but just working with this yellow color. So you repeat what you have been doing for the same number of granny stripe rows as you worked with your black color, okay. Just like you can see, I had 11 rows for my granny stripe, so I'm going to work my yellow color 11 rows for it, and then I will attach the red and then also work 11 rows for the granny stripe for it, and then attach the green and work 11 rows as well, okay. So you're going to attach all your 4 colors in that kind of manner after the number of rows that you worked for your very first panel, okay. If you had 9 rows, do the very same thing, work 9 rows for the yellow and the red and the green. So here I am. This is what your rectangle should look like after working 4 colors or 4 panels, one on top of the other. This is what it should look like. Also, please remember that your last row should be a single crochet into every stitch all the way until the end of the row. Why we end with a single crochet row is because we started with a single crochet row when we were starting our project. So your back piece is just a rectangle of uniform number of rows as your very first panel, okay. So let's move on to the front piece. Now I'm going to be taking you through the front piece super fast until we get to the point where I wanted you guys to be, okay. So first of all, before you start, we are going to be alternating the colors. This was just for demonstration purposes, that's why I still started with the very same color. But if you started the back piece with a black color, make sure that you start the front piece with the color that ended the back piece. For example, for my back piece, the color that ended it was red. And when I'm starting the front piece, I am going to start with black, okay? Because black Shit, I'm so confused. But the purpose of us alternating colors is because when you lay your front piece onto the back piece, you should make sure that if the back ends with black, the front should start with red or any other color, but not the same color as black, which is the back piece, because that will create a whole big patch of black front and back, which we don't want. We want a continuous stripe of colors that does not at any one point feel like we chose one color for the front and back piece in the same positions. That's why you will need to alternate your colors. I think that is well explained, and I hope you guys got it. Now you're going to get your yarn, and then you're going to make a slip knot, and you're going to work the very same number of foundation chains as you worked when you were starting your back piece. Okay, so if you started with 152 chains, that's exactly what you're going to work even for this project, even for this piece. Okay, and then you will get into the second chain stitch from the hook just like we did, and you will work one single crochet into every stitch until the end, and that will leave you with 151 stitches. Okay, and then you will chain 3 and work 2 double crochets. The chain 3 counts as a stitch, and you will work 2 double crochets into the very first stitch, which gives you 3 double crochets in total, which is a cluster, and you will keep skipping 2 and working 3 double crochets into the next stitch. You skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, and this is what you repeat all the way until the end of the row. So you remember this because this is what we did when we're starting our front piece, our back piece, or our first piece. And the reason as to why I am running super fast through this is because I want you guys to work the first shade of your front piece, the first shade, which is black, which I showed you guys how to work, okay, in the other earlier stages of this video. And then I want to meet you at the stage where you have completed the 11 or 9 rows or 13 rows of the first panel of your piece. Okay, so you're going to follow through working your granny stripes just like you have been working for the very same number of rows, as you have been doing for the very first back piece for the very first panel. Okay, so I'm going to meet you after you have your first shade of color complete or your first panel of color complete, and then show you how to work the next color, because the next color is the one where I start to show you how to work the V of our neckline. All right, so let me meet you guys there and then show you what to do. Now this is how my work looks like after working several rows for my panel. Remember, I am working for a size medium, and here I have a total number of 11 rows for the granny stripe, okay, which makes a total number of 12 rows if we add the single crochet row that started this project. Okay, but the granny stripe is 11 rows. Now I advise size small to have about 9 rows of the granny stripe, and then size large should have about 13 rows of the granny stripe. Now we are going to add another color just like you can see, and once you attach it, you're going to chain 3. I'm just tying the ends so that they are secure. I will later be working this underneath or even just weave them in. Okay, after chaining 3, you're going to turn your work just like this, and like you can see, my very last row for the black color was a cluster. So here that means we are going to skip the next stitch and work our cluster into the stitch after the skipped stitch. So we work 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Okay, so you chain 3, turn your work, skip 1 and work 3 double crochets in the next stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, which is a cluster. Okay, so basically we are just going to keep working our clusters in the way that we have been doing. Now what you're going to do is you're going to work your clusters until you have 8 clusters left to end the row. Now I made a mistake in this video because initially I worked my clusters and decreases, and then I figured that the V that I got with my neckline was way high up. It was almost close to my collarbone, and I wanted a deeper V. So I had to go back to my project, and then I took down more clusters. So that means you're going to make sure that you have 8 clusters left to end the row before you work the double crochet that I'm about to work here in the video. Okay, so in the video, please understand that this was a mistake. In the video I am showing that I have 4 clusters left to end my row, but you should have 8 clusters left to end your row. And then you will yarn over and skip the next 2 double crochet stitches and then work a double crochet into the next stitch that is of your 8th cluster. So that means you're going to have 7 clusters unworked. In the video here, I now have 3 clusters unworked, but for you, you should have 7 clusters unworked. All right. So this helps us get a deeper V and also start our decrease at least a distance away from the top of our shoulder, because the end of this panel is where the top of our shoulder is. So starting from a bit lower is going to give us a deeper V than I actually got when I started to work my decrease from here, where it is showing in the video. So in the next clips in the video, you will get to see what exactly I was meaning and how it looks like when you start to work your decrease from 7 clusters away from the top of the shoulder. Okay, so to work the next row, you're going to chain 3 and turn your work. I'm just going to work for 2 rows with you guys, then let you work the rest on your own. So yes, we have a chain 3 which counts as a double crochet stitch. Now you're going to skip 2 and get into the stitch and work 3 double crochets. You see that? So we have a decrease, but it will only start to make sense once we go ahead working more and more rows. Okay, so from here we skip 2 like we have been doing and work 3 double crochets into this next stitch. Skip 2, work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. And you're going to repeat this working your clusters all the way until you come to the end of your row. Okay, so you're going to work them until this point. Here you work 2 double crochets and then work the 3rd double crochet into the 3rd chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the row. So let me meet you at the end of the row and then start the next row with you guys and show you how to end it. So here I am at the end of my row. This is what it looks like. Please remember that these clips are only helping us to show you how to work your decrease, but you must make sure that you left 7 clusters unworked. Okay, now chain 3, turn your work. All right, shall skip 1 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Yarn over, skip 2 and work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. Skip 2, work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, and you're just going to continue repeating this all the way until you are right here. Okay, until you have 4 stitches to end your row. That's where I'm going to meet you and then show you what to do. Okay, so we are here, and like you can see, I've come to the end of my row, so I'm going to skip all these 3 and get into the 3rd chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the previous row and work a double crochet. So that's how I end my row. Do you see that we are having that sort of decrease? Yes. So you're going to go ahead and do everything that we have done for the past 2 rows. So here you're going to chain 3 and then work your cluster into the stitch. So it will keep decreasing and decreasing by one cluster. Okay. Yes, it has to decrease and decrease by one cluster. So make sure that you work this until you have the very same number of rows as you had for this cluster over here. Sorry, for this panel over here. Yeah, so I have worked 3 rows. That means I have about 9. Is it 9? No, I have about 8 rows. Yeah, 8 rows more. Okay. So let me meet you after you've done that, and then I'll get back to show you how we can now go up the V. Okay. So at the end of it all, this is how your work should look like. I have 11 rows all the way up to here. Okay, I've cut my yarn because now for me I am ready to change my yarn color. But I just wanted to show you guys, do you see that we have room here and now it's giving us a deeper V? Because if we had worked from where we were recently here, we would have been like over here, so it would be so high up, so close to our collarbone, and yet we are looking for a V that is slightly down our cleavage. Okay, because remember we are also going to be working border stitches that are going to make our neckline neater. So that means we are going to be adding more rows on top of this. So if it is high up close to your neckline, there won't be any room left for you to work those rows that have to be worked on top of the neckline to polish it. You get what I mean? So I hope that is explained, and I hope all of us right now are on the same page regarding this matter. I'm so sorry about the confusion that I caused you. Okay, so now going forward, I am going to attach my new yarn color, which is green. Okay, so here we are. Now to work our very first row of increase, because now this is enough for me going down. Now I'm going to start going up. Okay, this is enough going down. I'm going to start going up. So for us to start going up to create a V, we are going to work an increase with the granny stripe. So here we are going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch. And into this very first stitch right here, we are going to work 2 double crochets, just like that. And then we shall skip 2 and then work a double crochet into this next stitch. No. So once you have chained 3 into this very first stitch over here, we are going to work a double crochet and another double crochet. So that means we have introduced a cluster. Okay, and then we are going to go ahead into this very same stitch over here. We are going to work another cluster. So in this way we have worked an increase because we have introduced a new cluster. If we just worked one cluster over here, it would go flat, it wouldn't start to go up. But now you can see that there is that bit of curve showing that there is an increase, and we are going up. If we worked just one cluster where we had to like work 3 chains and then 2 double crochets in here, it would go straight, and that's not what we are looking for. We are looking for a V, so we need to go up. That's why we have worked 6 double crochets all in the very same stitch. Yeah, it's the very same stitch, it's just that I've spread them into different spots. Okay, I've spread the 3 double crochets, the 2 sets of 3 double crochets in different spots, but it's the very same stitch. We have worked 6 double crochets into the very first stitch. So from here we are going to skip 2 and then work 3 double crochets into this next the next stitch, just like that. And then we skip 2 and work 3 double crochets in the next. So from here going forward, you're going to work your clusters as you should. You just have to skip 2 and then work 3 double crochets into the next cluster. Okay, so do this all the way until you are down here. Okay, please forgive my nails, they look dirty because I had to super glue this nail back onto my nail, and yeah, I think the super glue carried that. So yes, all the way until this point, because when you get here you're going to work 2 double crochets and then 1 double crochet into this third chain stitch that started the row. So let me meet you at the end of the row and then show you how to work the next row. Okay, so we are at the end of our row, just like you can see. Now we are going to make our way back. So we chain 3 and turn our work. This should be the last row I am working with you guys, because from here you will know what to do. We're going to skip the next one stitch, and then work 3 double crochets into this next stitch. And then skip 2, work your double crochets into the next stitch. So here you already know what to do. You're just going to keep working your clusters all the way, and I'm going to meet you right here. Okay, I'm going to meet you right here when you have 6 stitches left to end the row. Okay, so we are here. I am at the end of the row. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip 2 and get into this stitch. I like to work into the gap of the stitch. So here we are going to work 3 double crochets. And then we shall skip 2 and get into the third chain stitch over here. And work a double crochet. So it may not look like we have done anything as yet, but yeah, we are getting there. See what we have? Yeah. Now from here we are going to chain 3 and turn our work. Into this very first stitch we are going to work 5 double crochets. The chain 3 counts as a stitch. So this gives us an increase. I think you can see where we are headed. Okay, it is starting to go up. Okay, so now from here you're going to do the very same thing we did on this row. Okay, you're going to work your clusters. So here you skip 2 and work your 3 double crochets into this next stitch. And you're going to continue working your clusters all the way until you come to the end of the row. Okay. Sorry guys, I had run out of storage, but yes, I'm just here to show you my progress so that you are convicted that you're doing what is right. Okay, you see so far the rows I have worked and the increments I have worked. We are just repeating what we did for these 2 rows. Okay, here I worked my 6 double crochets, and here, like you can see, I ended it the way I did here. And here I started this row with my 6 double crochets, and now I am working all the way back, like you can see. I am trying to get back all the way up to this point. So when I get here, I will work my 3 double crochets and then skip 2 and work 3 double crochets in here and then 1 double crochet. So repeat that until you have the very same number of rows as you had for this panel. Then I will meet you there to show you how we can now go up to work the panel that will go up our shoulder on the other left side. Right? Yeah, so this is what our work looks like so far. You can see that it's going up in the same way that it went down. Okay? Yeah. Hi friends, so this is where I am. Like you can see right now, the number of clusters that I have on this row are the very same number of clusters I had on this row, although the difference here is on this side I have 10 rows and here I have 11 rows. Okay, so here I have 11 rows and here I have 10 rows. but I will not add another row because the next row is going to require me to work an increase, and that means if I work an increase on the next row, I'm going to have more clusters than I had on this row. Yet I really want to have this look very similar. Okay, so we have worked 10 rows, and if you're working for a size small, you probably have 7. You should have 7 rows. Yeah, 7 or 8 rows. 8 rows, yeah, because you had to have 9 rows. So you should have 8 rows instead of 9, okay? Yes, because right now we have attained the number of clusters that we had, which should be the same number of clusters that you had over here. Now, I have attached my black color because I want to now work chains up here that go up to the shoulder, so that on those chains is where I start building the first row of the black. Oh no, I have to be, no. Yeah, I'm going to attach red. I have to attach red, not black. So yeah, I'm going to be attaching red so that we go up and work the panel that is going to go up our shoulder, okay? So that's the only difference that we are going to have with this panel here. This panel is going to be 1 row shorter than the rest of the panels, and that is okay. What we need is a piece that is of equal length. If I add one more cluster here, we are going to lose it, and I don't want us to lose the actual calculation that we were having initially. So let me attach my red color and then get back and show you what to do. Okay, so now here, you're going to count the number of stitches that you left here. When I counted mine, they were 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there were 21 stitches. And now what we are going to do is we are going to chain 21 and add 2 chain stitches at the end, okay, to make it a total of 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And then you're going to turn your work and into the 4th chain stitch from the hook is where you're going to work your double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and into this 4th one here you will work your double crochet just like that, and then work 1 double crochet, and then work 1 double crochet again into that very same stitch. So we have our very first cluster, okay? The chain 3 that we left is a stitch, okay? Then yarn over, skip 2, work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, and skip 2, work 3 double crochets in the next stitch, skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next, skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch, skip 2, 3 double crochets into the next stitch, I'm just turning, making sure that my cord did not turn. Okay. Skip 2, work your 3 double crochets into this next stitch, see what we have. So in total we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clusters over here. And then into this, obviously you're going to have 1 stitch left, and then this, and into the gap of the very first stitch over here is where you're going to work your very first cluster on this. Okay, just like that. So do we have the same number of stitches? Let's see. Let me try to test this out. Do you see that we have the very same number of stitches? And that's what I was looking for. Okay, so here we skip 2 and work 3 double crochets into the next stitch. So you're going to repeat this all the way until the end of the row. And after this, you're just going to work your clusters in the way that we did for this panel, okay? All the way until you come to the end of this panel, okay? And remember, when we were starting, we worked chains and then single crochets. The single crochet row that was the very first row that we worked before we started working our clusters. So that means when you work this and repeat this and repeat this until you have the very same number of granny stripe rows that you have on this panel, then on top of the granny stripe rows, or the very last granny stripe row, you will work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way until the end, so that it matches up to the single crochet row that we worked before starting our granny stripe. So I'm going to let you work this all the way until the end, and I'm going to meet you right there to show you how to work our back. Let me see what it's going to look like. Ooh, guys. Okay, let me get back and show you what my work will be looking like. Okay, so like you can see, I just wanted to show you guys before I proceed with working my single crochets. So this is what we have after working the very same number of rows I have on this side, and like you can see, my very last row is of clusters only, not starting with a double crochet and then a cluster. So my very last row is of clusters only. This is a great thing because when we were starting on this side, we started with clusters only, not, oh sorry, this is a very good thing because when we're starting this side, we started with clusters only and not a double crochet then clusters, if you get what I mean. Okay, so it's a good thing to see that the last row you have on this side resembles your very first granny stripe row that you had on this side. Okay, once you have finished working all the rows that you need for your granny stripe, you're going to chain 1, and now we are going to start working 1 single crochet into every stitch. Why we are doing this is because we started with a single crochet row before we started to work our granny stripe, and this is going to help us match either side of our project so that when we are joining them, it is pretty much simpler to join them than you would. Also, it's because when we are working chains, and more so because I am working with a single strand, the chains become thin and look like they are weak to hold up the granny stripe. That's why when I was starting, I worked single crochets over them to strengthen, to strengthen them. Okay, so that the single crochet row can take up the granny stripe without putting so much strain onto the chains. Okay, so work your single crochets all the way into every stitch until you come to the end of your row right here, and then we can pick it up from there. Now that we have finished working our front and back piece, we are going to lay them one on top of the other. So here I have my back piece on top of my front piece, and what you're going to do at this point is, before you even cut your yarn, don't think about cutting your yarn as yet, because we are going to use that to stitch up the shoulder. But first I'm going to secure where my armpits are going to go later on my sleeves. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I want to mark up where my armpits are going to be, or more like where the sleeve is going to be. But first I'm going to do it piece by piece. So we are going to get our tape measure and measure 10 inches. That's for size medium. Size small, measure 9 inches. and size large measure 11 inches. Yes. So we have 10 inches. Now what you do is you're going to mark the single crochet stitch that is in line with the stitch in which you worked your cluster that makes the 10th inch. Okay. Please don't mark this. No, mark the stitch that is in line with this cluster. Okay. And also make sure that that cluster is the one that was in line with the 10 inches. So you mark there. And then go on to your front piece. Also, when we are laying the front and back piece, we are making sure that the black is close to the red for the back piece, okay? So that we don't have a whole big black panel coming from the front to the back. No. When you have black on the front panel, make sure that the back panel is having red. So let's go also onto the back panel, just like this. And we are going to mark 10 inches as well, okay? This is the stitch that is in line with the 10 inches, so we also mark this up. So to make sure that we have accurate results, you're going to count the clusters that you have on this side and see that they are the same clusters you have with the front piece, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that means on this back piece, we are going to go back to this cluster. Yeah, so that they are the same number of clusters on either side. So as you mark on this side, that's exactly what you're going to mark onto this side as well, okay? Mark your 10 inches here and mark your 10 inches here. So next we are going to join the shoulders before we start to work the sleeve, okay? Now I'm going to be joining the sleeve and I'm going to pick it up from where I left off when I was working the last row of my front piece. Just like you can see. Okay, we are going to go into this very first stitch. We pull through the loop and work a chain to close that off. So once again, we go into that very same stitch and work a single crochet. Make sure that you are working on the inside. Now here, because we have a chain 3 which counted as a double crochet stitch, we are going to do exactly the same on this side. We chain 3, get into the bottom of this double crochet post over here, and also the bottom of the double crochet post on this side, okay, and then work a single crochet to join them. Chain 3, get into the bottom of this single double crochet over here and the bottom of the next double crochet over here and work a single crochet to join them. So chain 3, yeah, do the very same thing, get in here and also get in here, okay, and then join them just like that. So you see what we are having. Yeah, you see what we are having on this side. Yeah, so this is what we are going to keep repeating all the way until we come to the end right here, and then you'll do the very same thing to join the shoulder on this side as well. Okay, so let me get back to show you how we can work our sleeve and then pick it up from there. Okay, so this is what I have after joining my shoulder. Okay, now, all right. So now what I'm about to do is work my sleeve. So I'm going to work it from starting from the marked point on this side towards the marked point on this side. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to start working my sleeve. And I'm trying to see that I work with a color that is not either on the front or on the back. So that's why I've chosen green. And you're going to get into the marked stitch over here. Make sure that the number of stitches you have are equivalent to 3 sets of to sets of 3, okay, plus 1 stitch at the end. You get what I mean? Because that's the only way we are going to be in position to work our granny stripe without messing up our stitch pattern. So here we are going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch, and we go into this very same stitch and work 2 more double crochets, which is our very first cluster, just like that. And then we shall skip 2, work a double crochet, work a double crochet into the next stitch, then work 2 more double crochets to make your cluster. Skip 2, work 3 double crochets into the next stitch, skip 2, work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. And this is what you're going to repeat all through until the marked stitch on the other side. So do this all the way until you are right here. So into this very last stitch, you should work 3 double crochets, which should be your very last cluster. Let me meet you on the next row and then show you what to do. So now, this is how my work looks like. I worked from one end of the marked stitch to the other end, and this is what it looks like. This is literally our very first row of the sleeve, and I'm going to be working the next row with you guys and let you work the rest of the rows on your own. All right. Now here you're going to chain 3. So once you have chained 3, you're going to skip 2. Sorry, you're going to skip 1. And you will work your cluster into this next stitch. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet stitch. And then you'll skip 2 and work your 3 double crochets into this next stitch. So basically what we are doing here is we are working our clusters just like we have been doing. And yeah, I just wanted to show you guys what it has to look like. But from here, I am confident that you can work the next rows on your own, okay? So you're going to work your clusters and granny stripes as we have been doing for all this entire project. And I just want us to have about 5 rows per color. I'm going to be working about 3 colors. So you can work between 5 to 6 rows per color. I would advise to have a sleeve that is about 7.5 to 8 inches of length. Okay, I think that will be the sleeve that will be most appropriate for this dress, and that's the length of the sleeve that I worked for mine. Okay, so let me let you work this and also work the sleeve on this other side as well. Okay, then get back to show you how to join them. Okay, so I have worked my sleeve like you can see, and you should have about 8 inches of length for your sleeve. All right, so once you have this, we are going to now join from here all the way down to the armpit, and then all the way down until the bottom of the dress, which is here. Yeah, which is here. So I'm going to take you through on how to join this. And so here, because we are having double crochet posts, we are going to join this part just like we joined the upper bit of our shoulder. Okay, so insert your hook into the 3rd chain stitch of the 3 chains that started the very last row that you worked, and pull through a loop, chain 1. Now after you have turned your work, you are going to work a single crochet into the very same stitch in which we have pulled through the loop from our very last, stitch on the row. So into that very same spot right there, we are going to work a single crochet. And then since we are having double crochet posts along our edge, we are going to chain 3 and get into the bottom of the double crochet posts on either side, work a single crochet in there. You chain 3, get into the bottom of the next double crochet posts on either side and work a single crochet to join them. Chain 3, get into the bottom of the next double crochet post on either sides, just like that. And in there, you're going to work a single crochet to join them both. Okay? Just like that. And join them. Now you're going to make sure that you're following everything row by row so that you do not, stitch together past where the red color has to end or the yellow color has to end. So you're going to be very, very vigilant when you're doing this. If you find that you have made any errors, please go back and cross check and see where you went past the bottom of that double crochet post, because usually that's when the confusion comes. So this is what you're going to do all the way until the end of our sleeve. And you will find that on the other side of our edge, we are having single crochet stitches along the entire edge. And the way to join that part is going to be typically different from how I have joined this part. Now work the chain 3 and single crochet until the end of the sleeve. So like you can see, I have joined. Now it's time to join this all the way to the bottom. Now, because at this point we have single crochets, we are just going to be working one single crochet into both single crochets of both pieces. You see that? Go into this. So yeah, you're just going to work one single crochet into every stitch all the way until the bottom of your work right here, and then cut your yarn. So what we have done on this side, how we have worked our sleeve and joined it, is exactly what you're going to do on this side. Okay, you will join the shoulder here and then work your sleeve. Okay, after working your sleeve, you join it and join all the way down, just like we have done on this side. So let me get back to show you guys how we can now work along our neckline to polish it. So I am going to be working my sleeve later on. I just joined it at the top because now I want to work along the neckline and then work the bottom bit down here so that I sit once and for all to work my sleeve. Yeah, I want to like get through with this so that I sit once and for all to work the sleeve. Okay, so let me show you the neckline. So this is what we are going to do for this neckline. It's going to be very, 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 very simple. You're just going to chain 3, which counts as a double crochet stitch. Now into the very last stitch here that you had after working your sleeve. Let me just, you see the stitch that is in line with the seam line here is where you're going to work your 2 double crochets. Remember that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. And then let me just lay this over, yarn over. Okay, you are going to skip this double crochet post and get into this one here. That's where you're going to place your 3 double crochets. You see that? Okay, skip this double crochet post and get into this one here. Okay, I don't know. Let's do this. I think this will be better. So we are skipping this and working 3 double crochets into this one. Let me remove these because they are looking so bad. I will weave them in later. And then skip, go to this next double crochet post and work 3 double crochets. Do you see that? So we are just going to keep doing that. You skip the next double crochet post and then work 3 double crochets into the next one. So just keep doing that all the way up to here. Okay, that's where I'm going to meet you and then I show you what to do. So okay, so this is it. Like you can see, now I am at the end of my back panel and I'm coming to the front. Okay, so what I am going to do here is I'm going to work 3 double crochets into the 2 chains that were skipped right here. You see those 2 chains? Don't worry about this. This is because this is strained because we worked a cluster into a chain 1 that was weak without single crochets. That's when we were working this edge. So yeah. So into this closest chain 2 space, there is where we are going to work our next cluster, which makes us cross over to the front. So this is where the seam line was, and here we have crossed over to the front. You see that? Yeah, this is where we joined the seam line. So here we have crossed over. And now we go ahead, work 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. See that? Skip this and work 3 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. And this is what we are going to repeat all the way until we get to the bottom of this panel. So just work 3 double crochets into every chain 2 space, just like that. Okay, until this point. So once you are here, that means we have made it. Okay, so you see what we have? Yeah. Now, from here, we are just going to cross over. Oh, we work also into this space. That's 3 double crochets. And now that we have finished, we are just going to cross over into the chain 3 space over here. And we work our double crochets. And that's what we are going to do for all the chain 3 spaces that we have. Okay, so here you cross over up to this chain 3 space. The chain 3 which acted as a double crochet post. See that? Go ahead, skip and work your 3 double crochets into this next chain 3 space. Skip and work 3 double crochets into the next chain 3 space. skip the next and work 3 double crochets into the next chain 3 space. Just like that. And then here we are just going to cross over to this. We do the very same thing. You skip and work 3 double crochets into that next double crochet stitch. You skip this one, okay, and then work into this next one, just like that. So you see what we have, and that's what you're going to do going up. When you get here, obviously you're going to be working into these spaces. You work a cluster here, 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 a cluster here. Then after that you work a slip stitch into the 3rd chain stitch. And I'm going to meet you on the next row where I show you how to work the very last row for our neckline. To work the very last row of the neckline, we are going to attach a new color. I'm doubling my strands because I want a thick single crochet row, okay? But if you're working with like DK yarn, you don't have to double your strands, honestly. You just have to work a single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work. Make sure that your last row is being worked on the right side. For me, this is my right side because my work is still in and out, in out, after joining my shoulders. So what we are going to do is we are just going to be working 1 single crochet into every stitch. Every double crochet stitch that we worked, we are just going to be filling it up with 1 single crochet. Just like that. So this is going to mark the end of our neckline polishing. Just like that. So work 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around until you are back here, and then work a slip stitch, cut your yarn, and you will weave in your ends. So I'm going to get back just to show you what my work looks like. This is how my work looks like. This is the right side. That's how it looks like. Let me work my sleeve, and then when I get back, I'm going to show you the little extension that we are going to work at the bottom here. Yeah, just to give it a little more design down here. All right, but also you can stop from here if you want. So here we are. This is what my work looks like. Now I am set and ready to work my next rows. Okay, so here I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And I'm going to be, turn your work. Make sure now that you are working on the outside. Okay, you're working this on the right side, because after this we are not turning our work anymore. Okay, so chain 1, turn your work into the very first stitch. You work a half double crochet, work 1 half double crochet in the next, continue to work 1 half double crochet, and we're just going to work 1 half double crochet into every stitch all the way until we come to the end of the row. So work 1 half double crochet all the way around until the end of the row. until the end of the row, and then you will work a slip stitch. You see how it's coming out? So I am most likely to work about 4 rows of half double crochets for each color for the next 2 colors, and then 2 rows for the third color, and then yeah, or maybe 4, depending on what length this is going to give me. So let me work my rows of half double crochet. You just work 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way around until the end right here. Please note that if you look at the bottom of your dress, okay, the width down here, and you feel like it is too wide for you, because we need this band to be narrower so that it can hold or hug our thighs, all right? So if you feel like the width is too wide, you can always mark the the stitch in line with this seam line here. You mark here, and also you mark this side. So whenever you get to those marked stitches, you work a decrease. By decrease, I mean working 2 half double crochets together into the next 2 stitches, okay? That creates a decrease on the left side and on the right side. So in that way, it sort of like narrows down the band, not to have it as wide as it could look. So that's a trick I am just sharing, because for me, I am confident that my width is just enough. But if you find that the band is a little bit loose, that's the technique that you can use to narrow it down so that it can be in position to hug our legs. Okay? Yes. So I will not be sharing a video for that, but if you have followed my videos, you know how to work your decreases. More so if we're working at decrease after the hip area or something like that. So that's the same way, or an increase for the hip area. That's the same way that you can, that's the same knowledge you can apply onto this to work your decreases so that this band can be narrowed down. You just mark any stitch that is in line with the seam line on this left side, and then do the very same thing on the right side. So whenever you get there, you work a decrease, you work a decrease, you work a decrease, you work a decrease. And you can decrease in that kind of manner until you feel like it has narrowed down, but make sure you don't over narrow it down, because our dress is going to lose shape if you do. So I hope you guys have understood the trick that you can apply in regards to the band down here. It is really optional, but it's just for you if you feel like this is kind of wide. So let me work my rows, and then I'm going to get back to show you guys how my dress has turned out, and then we can come to the end of this tutorial. So I am through with working my sleeve and joining it. This is how my dress looks like. So I have a horizontal extension. That I'm going to add down here, which will mark the end of our dress. This is going to help give it a little bit more length and also give it a better look and finish down here. Now to do that, like you can see, because I'm working with light fingering yarn, I am doubling my strands for this edge, because I'm going to be working with half double crochet stitches. If you are working with DK yarn, you don't have to double your strands, okay? So I'm going to find my way into anywhere close to the seam line, and I'll insert my hook just like that. Chain 1, and I'm going to work a single crochet in there. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to be working 2 single crochets into every double crochet post, whether you're working with DK yarn or you're working with double strands of light fingering yarn. Make sure that you're working 2 single crochets into every double crochet post. This is going to help shrink our work. I really understand that we should be working 3 single crochets into every double crochet post, but also we do not want to maintain the same size. I want this horizontal band or the hem to be slightly narrower so that it can hug our body very well. Besides, the hips are wider than our legs, okay? So we just need to make this a bit narrower, okay? Because it's going to be down our hips, which is a narrower part compared to our hip width. I hope that is explained properly. So you're going to work your single crochets all the way around the entire hem until you get to the end of it, and I'm going to meet you at the end of the hem to then show you how to work your next row. Okay, so this is what I have. Just go all the way around until you're back here, and then you work a slip stitch into this stitch. That's where I'm going to meet you and then show you how to work the next row. So here we are. This is what my work looks like. Now I am set and ready to work my next rows. Okay, so here I'm going to chain one and turn my work. And I'm going to be, turn your work. Make sure now that you are working on the outside. Okay, you're working this on the right side, because after this we are not turning our work anymore. Okay, so chain one, turn your work into the very first stitch. You work a half double crochet, work one half double crochet in the next, continue to work one half double crochet, and we're just going to work one half double crochet into every stitch all the way until we come to the end of the row. So work one half double crochet all the way around until the end of the row. Until the end of the row, and then you will work a slip stitch. You see how it's coming out? So I am most likely to work about 4 rows of half double crochets for each color for the next 2 colors, and then 2 rows for the third color, and then or maybe 4, depending on what length this is going to give me. So let me work my rows of half double crochet. You just work one half double crochet in every stitch all the way around until the end right here. Please note that if you look at the bottom of your dress, okay, the width down here, and you feel like it is too wide for you, because we need this band to be narrower so that it can hold or hug our thighs. All right, so if you feel like the width is too wide, you can always mark the left the stitch in line with this same line here. You mark here, and also you mark this side. So whenever you get to those marked stitches, you work a decrease. By decrease, I mean working 2 half double crochets together into the next 2 stitches. Okay, that creates a decrease on the left side and on the right side. So in that way, it sort of like narrows down the band, not to have it as wide as it could look. So that's a trick I am just sharing, because for me, I am confident that my width is just enough. But if you find that the band is a little bit loose, that's the technique that you can use to narrow it down so that it can be in position to hug our legs. Okay, yes. So I will not be sharing a video for that, but if you have followed my videos, you know how to work your decreases. More so if we're working at decrease after the hip area or something like that. So that's the same way, or an increase for the hip area. That's the same way that you can, that's the same knowledge you can apply onto this to work your decreases so that this band can be narrowed down. You just mark any stitch that is in line with the seam line on this left side, and then do the very same thing on the right side. So whenever you get there, you work a decrease, you work a decrease, you work a decrease, you work a decrease. And you can decrease in that kind of manner until you feel like it has narrowed down, but make sure you don't over narrow it down, because our dress is going to lose shape if you do. So I hope you guys have understood the trick that you can apply in regards to the band down here. It is really optional, but it's just for you if you feel like this is kind of wide. So let me work my rows, and then I'm going to get back to show you guys how my dress has turned out, and then we can come to the end of this tutorial. So now that the dress is done, I am going to be working a string that snatches our waist to make this dress feel like it was made to the measurements of both our waist and hips. So we are going to get our yarn and just make a slip knot. And then we are going to work several chains so that we have a very long cord. Not very long. You can work about 150 to 200 chains. So this is my cord, okay? And now I'm going to show you how to add tassels onto it. So here I have cut up yarn in different colors, just like you can see. And these strands are about 14 inches long, 15 inches long, sorry. So I am going to fold them, all of them, just like that, creating a loop at the top. And I'm going to get my scissors and cut through that loop. So that means right now they are 7.5 inches of length, okay? And it's what I'm going to fold over, just like this. So get your cord and get to the bottom of it or top of it. Take out a yarn end to make it look like you are undoing the cord, just so that we create space where we are going to pass our yarn strands, like that. So this space that we have created is where we get the yarn strand here, the yarn strands here, and take one side of them through the ring, just like that. So once you know that they are of similar length at the bottom, then you pull the ring to fasten. Okay. So once this is done, you're going to cut up a string of yarn that is long enough, and this is what we are going to wrap over. You make sure you're about 1 inch or 1.5 inches from the top. So we are just cutting the bottom to level it. Okay, so that's what you do. And you're also going to do the very same thing onto this side. Okay, so I'm going to get back just to show you how to attach our string onto the back of our dress. So like you can see, it is slightly loose fitting around the waistline. So what we are going to do with our free, I don't know, the cord that we worked and put, actually we had to add the tassels after we had added it onto the dress, but anyway, let's just find our way into it. So remember where the seam is for the front. Remember where the seam is for the front. You can even just go literally anywhere. I'm just going to go into this, the gap right here, okay? So just find a gap. You don't have to necessarily find your way close to the seam line, for as long as you insert it where you feel it is not far from the section where your waist is. going to be a little bit hectic and hard. You see that? And then cross over to this side as well and find a point. Find a point. Let's say right here. And insert our string and then pull it through as well. So what this is going to do is it's going to snatch our waist and also close up our back just like that. You see that? So you can fasten it accordingly just so you make sure that you have a snatched waist, okay? Okay, so finally this is how my dress came out. This is the back of it after snatching it in a way that cinches the waist. And yeah, I hope you guys have learned something and I hope you loved this tutorial. This is the front of the dress, and thank you so much guys for watching this. Let me see you all in my next tutorial, and goodbye.